Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm glad you could be here with me today. Now, you know something that I just realized, and I do this so often. I am putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay, so I am here and you are here, and now you can even see me, so that's awesome. Okay, we are going to do something today that we haven't done before. We are going to make egg drop soup. Now, if you haven't had egg drop soup, you want to pay attention, grab a pen and a piece of paper, do it old school, pen and paper. We can do this. Okay, so we're going to start off with something that I don't usually use. We are going to add chicken broth. Now, I'm using chicken broth today, and I will tell you that when you check the ingredients on this organic chicken broth, I bought this at Costco. It is a lovely chicken broth. There's no salt added, but when you look at the ingredients, there is a wee little bit of sugar in it. I know sugar is not keto, but it is a tiny, tiny little bit, and it isn't going to make a huge amount of difference. It isn't going to make a huge amount of difference because you're having so little. So let's get this started. The first thing we are going to do is add 1 liter of 1 liter of chicken broth. Now, you know, one of the beautiful things about this is you can eat the whole pot all by yourself and you're still not going to be over on your carbs for a meal. Now you can see the wee little bit of chicken fat that's floating in there. Okay, so when I look at the, where is it? Okay, when I look at the side, it says that in 1 cup there is 1 gram of carbs. Now part of that is going to be coming from the carrots. I don't think that there is actually any added sugar. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But you are going to, when you make a broth, and you simmer carrots and onions and celery in it, whatever sugar is in those vegetables, a little bit of it is going to leach into your broth. So that's likely where it comes from. I'm going to move this out of the way. Now, we need this to be left cold for right now. And the reason that we need it to be left cold, hi Del, the reason we need it to be left cold is because we're going to make a slurry that is going to give us all of our flavor. And if you haven't made a slurry before, usually we do this because we have some type of powder that we don't want to clump. And today the powder that we don't want to clump is the xanthan gum. Now we're only putting 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum in, but before we do that, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. If you don't like garlic, swap it out for onion powder, or you can just omit it. Okay, so we have 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/8 teaspoon of turmeric. Now this is not going to add a lot of flavor. It'll add a little bit, but it is going to add some beautiful golden color to it. And we have 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. Now the reason that these are important right now is because when we add this xanthan gum, there we go. When we add the xanthan gum, if we don't have something to break it up, it's just going to turn into one yucky clump. And we don't need a yucky clump of anything in our soup. And for those of you who don't like garlic, you're thinking I already put something that's going to make a yucky clump in. Okay, now to this, we are going to add, now what have I done with my... Okay, I just had my ladle here, and then there it was gone. What did I do with it? I have no idea what I did with it. You know, I'm going to bet that I put it in the sink. I guess washing it twice is better than not washing it at all, right? Okay, so that being said, I'm going to steal a little bit of the chicken broth, and I'm going to work it into our dry ingredients. Now, chicken broth has a lot of chicken flavor. It also has a lot of water. So I could have just grabbed a little bit of water, but I don't want to water down this beautiful broth that we're going to be making. And now I just have a little teeny tiny whisk, and I'm going to whisk this in here so that there are no lumps. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of TSL Organics Worcestershire sauce. That's going to add a whole bunch of flavor. Now this is actually a traditional Chinese recipe, I'm told. And it's like hamburger here. Every family has their own recipe. And so everywhere you go in China or in India, it's chai tea. Every family has their own version of chai tea. So it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to find something a little bit different, and that makes egg drop soup exciting. Okay, now I can see already that this slurry is starting to thicken up. So we're just going to leave that there for a second. And we're going to take 14 grams of fresh ginger. You know, you can use powdered ginger. It is not going to give you the same effect. You want ginger that is sliced, so you've got fresh slices in there. It's going to give you so much more flavor. And you can pick it out when you're done, because ginger is very fibrous. So not necessarily going to be the most wonderful mouthfeel for you. Okay, we are going to pop that in there. We're going to turn this on. Oh, come on. We're going to turn this on high for right now, just because we want to heat up this broth. And we've got this beautiful slurry in here that is going to give us so much flavor. Okay, now we're going to add this to our broth. This is quick and easy. If you're doing this at home, it's like 5 minutes to get it ready and 15 minutes to cook it down, and then you're good to go. And one of the beautiful things about this, besides the flavor, which is always the most important part to me, but this is something that you can I was going to say overindulge in, but it's a little bit harder to overindulge in something that is so low in carbs. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful soup. Now I'm doing this in a Dutch oven, mostly so that you can see it. If I was making a big batch, I'd need a pot this big, but I wanted you to be able to see how beautiful this is. Okay, so let's keep on keeping on. Now the next thing we're going to do, and again, this is optional. Now you remember when I told you that most families have their own version of egg drop soup? Please remember that, because you don't have to do it a way that you don't want to do it. There are things that are kind of standard, like the chicken broth and the onions on top, but other than that, it's all your call. Okay, now I am going to add, because I love mushrooms and I have them in the fridge, I'm going to add 4 cremini mushrooms. I'm taking the stalks off of these mushrooms just because it's going to be prettier in the soup without the stalks. So I'm just breaking those off, and I'm going to throw those back in the bowl. And then we have 4 beautiful mushroom caps. We're going to turn them over and slice them so that we have beautiful little pieces of mushroom to add to our soup. Now, if you want your mushroom raw, you can add it in at the end. I want mine to be cooked down a little bit. I want some of the flavor of this mushroom to be in the broth, so it's a chicken mushroom broth. So for that reason, I'm going to keep a couple of little slices to put on top, just for garnish. Okay, look at that, slicing them up all beautifully. Now I'm going to just put these little pieces back in the bowl over there. And make sure that you wash any excess green leaves off it? I don't know. Peat moss. I know that's what they're grown in. Okay, there. Now we have our mushroom slices. We're going to add those. The next thing we are going to add is green onions or scallions, depending on who you are and where you live. Now, these are washed and dried and ready to go. I am just going to trim the roots off them because we don't need the roots on these. Okay, what we do need is the whites of the onions. Now, we want these bruised. And you want them bruised because bruising them is going to release a whole bunch of extra flavor, and that is hugely important. Best way to bruise them, just like that. Now, we're going to slice these very thin, and we're going to add that to our broth as well. Now, as thin as you can slice them. If you want to mince it, that's fine too. So when you slice them in rounds like this, you want to be careful that you just get the onion and not your fingers. Okay, when you slice them in rounds like this, they're going to break up in the soup and give you nice little bits of onion floating in there. So we're going to add the onion now, and having it bruised, it doesn't take very much. There we go. Now, we're going to give it a stir. Oh my goodness, where on earth did I put my whisk? Now, we're also going to turn it down to 2 because we want this just to simmer. While it simmers, it's going to be releasing all of the flavor from that fresh ginger that we put in there. And between the ginger and the scallions and the Worcestershire sauce, this is smelling amazing already. Now, the longer you want to simmer it, the more intense the flavors are going to get, and the more the aroma is just going to grab you and pull you in. But you can see most of what we have in here is broth. This isn't a really chunky soup. It's a very light soup. Okay, so we're just going to sprinkle a wee bit of salt in here. And then we're going to grab a spoon and give it a bit of a taste. That is definitely going to need more salt for sure. Okay, so now you want to season this to taste. Now, egg drop soup, here's something that's not going to shock anybody. Good morning, Tammy. Egg drop soup is called egg drop soup because you drop eggs in it. Go figure. Okay, so I'm going to grab another spoon and do another little taste test. Now, don't be stingy with the salt. Use a good quality salt and don't be stingy with it. Salt is not the evildoer that we've all been told that it is. So you want to make sure that you are giving yourself enough salt. Did you know that salt helps regulate your blood pressure? Well, not the salt itself, but the sodium in the salt. So if you have, now this is a beautiful, can you see all of the lovely little flecks of color in there? There, now you can see it. Now this is Redmond real salt. And if you haven't ever used it, I highly recommend that you do. It is absolutely the best salt in the world. It's mined from an underground ocean bed, an ancient ocean bed in Utah. So it is the only sea salt that you're ever going to find that has never been touched by pollution. So it is well worth exploring. So Redmond real salt. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, now this is going to simmer while we get the rest of our, soup ready. Now we need 3 large eggs, and we're going to be careful and break these into a bowl. And nicely done. because I can see that I got a little teeny piece of shell in here already. Oh, come on. There we go. Got it. You know, it is so much easier to get a piece of shell out if you do one egg at a time into a separate bowl. And if there's anything wrong with an egg, it gives you an opportunity to discard that egg and get a fresh one. Not that there should be anything wrong if you're buying them at a farmer's market or grocery store. They should be fresh. Okay, there we go. So that is 3 eggs in the bowl. You can tell that this is just needing to be turned up a tiny bit more. Now, if you're really watching, you'll see the vegetables moving around in here, and that is the heat that is just pulling all of the flavor out of that ginger and out of our spices. Okay, now, 3 eggs in a bowl. We need to beat these up. And you definitely want to make sure that these are well beaten. Get this out of the way. Because we're going to drizzle these. Okay, well, look at that. I put an apron on so that I don't mess up my clothes, and I managed to hop right over the apron and right onto my clean shirt. But if it's the worst thing that happens all day, it has been a pretty darn good day. Okay, so we have that beaten up really well, and you can see again that this is all moving around in that pot and getting lovely and yummy. Now these eggs, beaten up like this, are going to be stirred into our egg drop soup. And the best way to get these little ribbons of eggs in here. Okay, now before we do this, let's do one more little taste test here. Make sure that we've got all of our seasonings where we need them. That is lovely. Now the one thing that I am going to add in a little bit is a little bit of lime juice. Or if you have citric acid in your house, you can add a little bit of citric acid. I really like a soup or a drink that has some tang to it, that really gets your mouth excited. So now you can see this is starting to just bubble a wee bit. So we're going to stir this, and we're going to get, okay, let me move this way so that you can see what I'm doing here. Get that little cyclone happening. And let the cyclone carry the egg away. And look at all of those beautiful little ribbons of egg showing up in our soup now. Get the cyclone going again. So if we ate this entire pot of soup, we would have 3 eggs, 4 mushrooms, 4 scallions, or green onions, and you would be absolutely stuffed. You wouldn't be able to eat it all. Now, I could have pulled the ginger out of here before I put the egg in, and I didn't, because I want that ginger to sit in this soup and keep adding flavor. Okay, now I am going to, forgot to do it before we came on, I'm going to grab my lime juice, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of lime juice to the soup, just to give it that little extra zing. And we'll give it a stir, and we're going to turn the heat down. Now, if you want this to simmer and you want the flavors to get more intense, and just turn it down to the lowest heat you can and leave it for a little while. Grab another spoon. I get more spoons dirty. That just brightens everything up. That is a beautiful addition. And it's something that if you want a little bit more, you can add a little bit more in your bowl. So you want to see what it looks like in the bowl? Well, we still have another step to do. We'll get our cutting board out here. And we're going to take the tops of these green onions and just thinly slice them. I really need to sharpen my knife. Oh my goodness. Now we don't add these to the pot while it's simmering because we want these scallions to be beautiful and crisp. So we're just going to add these on top of the bowl as we dish it up. So if you're not dishing it up right away, either leave these and slice them later or put them in a Ziploc bag. And then they'll be nice and fresh and not going to dry out on you. Or in a bowl and cover it. One way or the other. You want to make sure that they're not sitting out, drying out. Okay. Now you can do as many or as few of these as you like. It is up to you because this is your recipe and you're going to do it your way. Now I did not grab a bowl. There's a surprise. So I am going to grab a bowl right now and we're going to take a look at this beautiful soup. And you know, I just cannot for the life of me figure out what I did with that. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just don't know. So, since I cannot find my ladle, I'm just going to do this. This works well. Oh, look at that. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, do you need a little bit more salt? Do you need a little bit more lime juice? Do you need a little bit more something? Anything? Because if you do, then do it. Do it your way. Okay, now this is a Kodak moment. We have created, a Kodak moment. Should we take a picture of it? I might have it on Do Not Disturb, but I can take a picture. Oh, look at that. Okay, I will post that picture on Instagram so you guys can go back and look at it. I hope you wrote everything down because this is absolutely a lovely soup. Now, there are as many different ways to eat this as there are different people to eat it. So if someone says it needs more of this or more of that, let them put it in. And give them the recipe so that they can make it at home. That is beautiful. And I will add a little more salt and a little more lime juice to mine. But for serving it, I won't. Because where it is right now to serve it is just lovely. So, oh my goodness. That is so good. Yep, that is definitely going to make an absolutely beautiful lunch. I hope that you will make this for your family. Use it as an appetizer. It's something nice and light. It's not going to add a lot of carbs. If you're just having half a cup or a cup as an appetizer, or not an appetizer, but kind of an appetizer. It's not going to add any carbs to speak of. So do that. Serve it to your family. See what they think. Take it for lunch. It's something beautiful that you can take with you. It's easy to make. It's fast to make. You can leave it simmer to intensify those flavors. And I hope that all of you will let me know what you think of it. What did you think of the video? What did you think of the recipe when you tried it at home? And how did you change it to suit you or your family? Thank you very much for joining me today. I am so grateful that you're here, and I hope that you do your very best to live your best shining life from now until Friday. And on Friday, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before. I'm going to use a new ingredient to make rice pilaf. Yes, you can do it, and yes, it's keto, and no, it isn't rice. You're going to love it. You don't want to miss it. Join me on Friday, and we will do it together.